Welcome everyone to the 35th episode of Conversations with T. This is T speaking, and again, I'm back with Aqsa, who happens to be one of my best friends. For those of you who don't know her, I'm just going to give you guys a quick introduction. Aqsa is from India and she's a very talented writer. She used to be very active in the Wattpad community where her works were appreciated by many, and her works focused a lot on kindness. Fun facts about her include she's an introvert, she studied biotechnology in university, and she was born and raised in Saudi Arabia. How have you been, sis? Thank you for joining me today, and I'm happy to have you back.
Jazakallah khairan for having me. Thank you. Alhamdulillah, I'm good. And how about yourself?
Wa iyaki. I'm all right, alhamdulillah. Today's been a very productive day and I'm happy, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. May Allah make all your days productive enough for you.
I mean, and likewise. So, for today's episode, I wanted to have a discussion with you about the topic of OnlyFans and a few other topics that are related to it. So, for those of you who don't know what OnlyFans is, I'm sorry to be the one introducing this to you, but in a nutshell, it's mostly used by sex workers who produce pornography. It, however, also hosts the work of other content makers such as musicians and fitness experts. It's very popular among women, and a lot of them claim that it's progressive or liberating in inverted commas. And another popular reason for using this particular platform is apparently you can make a lot of money from there. But despite these beliefs and claims, several OnlyFans girls started complaining that men were not interested in having a long-term relationship with them, or nor did they want to marry them. There have been cases of some of them struggling financially later on, developing mental health issues and even becoming addicted to drugs. So, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, that is an interesting platform, first of all. Um, and then to add to that, I think perhaps this is just my outlook on the entire idea of it. But if you are going to that app or if you're going to that place, um, as just to, I suppose, have not very loyal interactions just to have, I think, what they would call a fling, then
Yeah,
there should really be no problem with having no long-term relationship with these men that you find on that platform. Um, at the end of the day, it is really just a business, from what I am understanding.
it
You
is a
go there.
business. You gone?
Exactly, exactly. I know, right? So if it's a business, you go there, you serve your client, and you come back, and that is it. There is nothing else over there, and you can't attach anything over there. So, to begin with, I think if you are looking for something long term, and if these users of this application, if they have the complaint that men are not interested for longer term relationships, then perhaps they are looking in the wrong place for men who will remain dedicated or loyal to you. So I think that this is just a place of business. And so if women are really interested in finding a loyal partner for themselves, then it would seem really stupid to look for it in
I
a place
know.
where people are just focused on doing their business, you know?
Yeah, and what these girls need to understand is that respect has to be earned. How can they expect men to take them seriously if they make themselves available to thousands, if not millions of people online? Okay, sure, some men may enjoy watching the content they provide, but these girls are nothing but objects to them. That's it. There's no emotional connection present. Other people are basically using them for satisfying their sexual desires in a very unhealthy way. A lot of these clients actually cheat on their partners or spouses with these OnlyFans girls, and yeah, these are the types of individuals who they're attracting. Um, if they want a high value or alpha man, as they call it, then they're not going to find him in OnlyFans because A, he has standards, and B, he looks for certain qualities in a potential wife that aren't expected to be found in these sex workers. It's important to know that high value men, they don't like promiscuous women because they reduce their masculinity. Men are naturally very protective and possessive over their womenfolk. A high-value man wants to protect his wife from other men because this is a woman
Mhm.
whom he wants to provide for, support, be vulnerable with, and have children with. And by being with a promiscuous woman, a man's level of protectiveness almost becomes non-existent because she's making herself available to every other guy out there, and a lack of protectiveness in a man equates to decreased masculinity. Do you agree, disagree? What are your thoughts on this?
I think I do agree. If you think about it, if a person is always going around and being careless about their decisions, I don't think you can trust that person with any major life decisions. For instance, marriage, children, education. I would personally say that such men or even women are greatly toxic. You need to make sure that the kind of partner that you're choosing, that partner is really focused and that they are constantly uh, driven by their desires to accomplish great things in life and not by such measly desires. People who basically follow desires, I think they need to be taught how to control their desires first and then how to navigate through those desires so as to be able to attain a healthy lifestyle through those desires, because eventually desires are not exactly a bad thing, but if taken if they're taking you towards the, because as everything else, even desires can take you towards the good things and they can take you towards the bad route. So if they are really taking you towards the bad route, I think you are you need to understand that it is something that's going to mess with you, and it will eventually become a habit. And once things become habits, they become difficult to be broken off. So yes, I agree that you need to be you need to be careful with men and women out there who are not exactly focused and who lack dedication in everything that they do and who merely just are careless with every decision that they make.
Yeah, you want to know what I find annoying over these OnlyFans girls? They shame men for
Mhm.
having preferences and they make them look like criminals for rejecting them, even though these men have very valid reasons. These girls like playing victim and they refuse to take accountability over their actions. And they need to understand that a lot of men do care about a woman's past, and it's reality. There are many risks associated with getting married to a woman with a high body count, and one of them is the fact that
Mhm.
these men have to constantly question their partner's loyalty. And if there are kids involved and if the mother is an OnlyFans model, then these children are at risk of getting bullied in school because it's embarrassing. No child wants to hear his or her classmate refer to their mother as being a whore or a prostitute, right?
I agree. Yes, it must be devastating for those children to hear things about their mother specifically. And I, anyway, children are very protective of their parents. If they come to
Sensitive.
hear of things like these, of
I was
negative things like these from other people,
yeah, you go on.
which we were saying,
Oh no, I just want to add that I think they're more sensitive, more than protective when it comes to their parents. Don't you agree?
yeah, I think yes, yes, exactly. I'm sorry, I do agree. It's more about sensitivity there, yes, because children are like that. They just see their parents to be role models, and they grow up watching their parents, they grow up watching their actions, they grow up seeing how their parents live life, and that is very impactful. We may think that it won't affect a little child. What would it do to them? But we have many researchers that have proved today that the psychology of a child is very different, and every little thing that you do around a little child is very transforming for him or her, and it can lead to either the child developing into a healthy or into an unhealthy individual. So if you want your children to grow up to be good people, and not just as in good in the moral sense, but also in the fact that they serve their society in a good manner. So if you want your children to be as productive individuals, or if you want to see them become successful in life, I think parents should really keep an eye on their own actions,
Exactly.
see where they're going with their decisions, be very careful and tread very carefully because when it comes to children, the ice is really thin. I have got to tread very, very carefully over that ice because children are like that. Children, you can say, are synonymous with very thin layers of ice, and you have to be very careful around them. And children, you can say, are like budding flowers, and they have to be given every little kind of care that is possible from the side of from those parents and from their sides. So I feel really bad to think that this is a scenario. It is an actual scenario. In reality, it happens. Uh, I feel very, uh, it is really wrong. And I can only imagine what kind of trouble that child or those children might go through, not only at a personal level, but also in a more in a crowd or before a group of people or in a classroom because it is devastating, really.
Yeah, I think both men and women should be very careful with who they choose or with whom they choose for marriage
Mhm.
because you know that saying, like a woman can choose her husband, but the child can't choose her father or his father. You've heard of that, right?
Yes, yes, I have.
Yeah, I think that's so deep. And
It
you
is,
want to
it
know
is really.
something about the type about the
Mhm.
men that about many men these days. Sure, they may go after the hot girl and may have a bunch of sexual partners before marriage, but when they start to take life more seriously and when they want to actually commit to someone, like a lot of men, if not all of them, they want to introduce a completely different woman to their
Mhm.
parents, someone who's typically more traditional, responsible, mature, loyal, and respectful. And that's reality. And um like before marriage, all the relationships he's had with those other women, they weren't serious, and it didn't matter if they were super toxic or what or not, because it wouldn't matter to him because he had no plans to commit to them in the long run. I mean, there weren't any bills to
Mhm.
pay for, there weren't any children to take care of, there wasn't any family involved, etc. And as soon as he got as soon as he when he got what he wanted, he's just going to move on with his life and chase after another girl and repeat the process. What do you think?
If a man is insincere and if he is still playing around and he is still lurking in that phase of life, then of course he is not going to be uh, serious about choosing a good partner for himself. It is only going to be more about desires and fulfillment of desires by extension. So if a man really cares and if a man changes, and when he does, I think the first thing that this man does is to eliminate all sorts of distractions from his life, and
Yeah,
that would include these women. The fact that he used to fulfill his desires by acting upon them is the first thing that he will eliminate. And by eliminate, I mean he will completely change his course of going through that desire. And once he's settled down and once all of this calms down in him, I think he won't ever want a woman like that in his life again.
yeah,
He
yeah,
would
yeah.
rather choose a woman who is very subdued, who is very simple minded, who is more feminine and
Mm,
who is more regulated with what with her choices, and somebody who is, I will say, bold, but at the same time somebody who is calming, who is reassuring, and with whom you know that a future is going to be stable, with whom you know that when you build upon your future there will be no chances of it collapsing on you. I think eventually that is what any man or any woman too would want. Nobody would want a careless person in their life, because life is not really about enjoyment all the time. Life is never about enjoyment, to be honest. Yes, that you can enjoy by having little joys here and there, doing things that are not really harmful to you in the long run. But if you're doing things that you think will impact your life eventually, and how it leads up from there, if it's going to impact your life in that manner, then those are really not joys. Those are, I will say, destructions
Yeah.
enveloped as joys. And many people in their enjoying phase of life do not find it easy to differentiate between destruction and between joy. And so when men and women eventually they come to realize about this, and they come to see that life is never about enjoyment in that way. These men or these women have grown, and that they will never accept these kind of people that you find on the particular application that you've mentioned. And I think eventually, if these people from that application, the OnlyFans, I think is the name of that application. If you think about it, these men and these women who are very much attached to this sort of business, they eventually will have their own downfall too. The fact that they're working in this business, it is never going to uh, be successful. They can never be successful through that, and they will eventually come down, and you can say it's going to be a standstill from there. In worse scenarios, I think it can even completely destruct the person, and there is going to be no returning back from that phase, because you have done far too damage. You have damaged yourself far too much to heal and to be able to move on. So, subhanAllah, I think it's best that a person never approaches such cases or such places wherein they know that it's going to just stick with them,
Mm.
and where they know that it is going to affect their future. Because like you've said, and like you've mentioned it yourself, people do care about your past. They do. And even maybe they won't care about, the silly mistakes that you make, or the silly mistakes that every person makes in their life. But when it comes to things like these, involving yourself in explicit relationships with men or women who you have um, no connections with, no ethical connections with, that impacts. That really does. It's like a stain that cannot be removed from your clothes.
Mm.
So, subhanallah, it is important that we take very careful precautions when dealing with such present day issues.
Yeah, and a lot of these men, at the end of the day, they're going to want traditional women, and I respect that because traditional women, they're less likely to cheat. They're typically more family oriented, um and I guess they have better prioritization skills. But I must also ask these men a very important question. Are they themselves traditional? Because it wouldn't be fair on both the man and woman if the woman is a virgin, but the man slept with so many women before marriage, and that's not how things work. A traditional woman wouldn't take such a man seriously because to her, that man is irresponsible and not trustworthy. And personally, if I get married and I find out that my husband had many sexual partners before marriage or is an OnlyFans subscriber, I would not be okay with it. I'm a very jealous person and I would start looking at him in a very different way if that were to be the case. What about you? How would you react if you were in that situation?
Subhanallah. Uh, okay, so that is it is not a difficult question. No, I would not say that. However, it is a really challenging one, because while I consider that these issues are something that I am very personally specific about, I also do know that I'm a very forgiving person, and I'm a very um somebody who gives chances, somebody who is down to take that risk. So I think I would not trust him, of course, if I ever come to find out that my husband had such a past. I think the first thing that will uh, happen in my mind is that I will lose complete trust. He may have been a good man, he may have been all along a very trustworthy person, and he may have been loyal, but the moment that comes up, or the moment this past of his reveals itself, I think automatically I will end up losing all my trust for him. I will give him chances, of course, but not as my husband. I will give him chances as a person. So I think I will be forgiving, but I don't think I will accept him or let him remain as my husband, because like you've mentioned, um, I'm not going to be judgmental, of course. Perhaps the person has really changed, and perhaps he is looking forward to a more respectful or a more responsible future. However, that does not assure the person that is going to be with him, and it's going to always create a doubt. It's going the doubt that would have been created in the mind of that person, of his spouse, in the mind of his spouse. I think that will forever remain there. So even if the husband has changed, and even if all throughout these years he has been a good person, I think the moment this part of his life comes up is the moment this wife, even though this husband has been good, by the way, she will lose complete trust of him, because all throughout her life she has never had such a tragic past or such a demeaning past. And so when she comes to hear of it, I think she will lose more specifically all her respect for him. And once that respect has been lost, once that falls down from the sky, I don't think there's chance of it being replenished. There's a chance of it being repaired. And maybe even if there is a chance, it is very slight. It is very little, something that is negligible. So subhanallah, yes, I I don't think I will accept that person as my husband, but surely I will accept that person as a person and give him chances to become a better one eventually, or just work on himself.
I mean, like I would be really happy if he did change for the better and he actually put in the effort to not return to his bad habits. And I mean, of course, we shouldn't judge a person for his or her past, and we should respect the fact that someone actually took so much of their time and energy to really fix up. Even though we should be happy about that, I still think at the back of our minds, there's still that insecurity, like that question,
Exactly.
what
That is what I was, yes, exactly. Because that doubt is always going to be there. That's the thing. See, it's good. That is the reason why in Islam you're not supposed to question a person about their past, especially when it comes to um, finding a spouse for yourself. When you have this opportunity to ask questions and to know about each other, there is a certain way of getting to know each other when it comes to that. And one of the rules of uh, having that conversation or having those conversations is that you never question a person's past, because that is something that is between them and Allah. So you leave it like that. So
hmm,
I think that is also one of the reasons why in Islam you are not to question a person's past doings, so as to be able to maintain a harmony. Because eventually, like we know, both of us know that people do actually change. That is a reality. There are, I think, yes, of course, it might be quite rare, but it is there. So to be judgmental of this person's actions is going to be rude, and it is going to be wrong. So for that reason, subhanallah, I think exactly why we have this rule in Islam where we don't question each other's past.
yeah, I think the less you know, the better it would be for the both of you.
Mhm.
Okay, Aqsa, thank you for joining me today. It was lovely having you back. I'm going to go off now. Thank you and take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much for having me. Jazakillah khairan. It was, as usual, we had a great time. I had a great time. And I hope that your evening goes well for you. And please take care. Have a good night. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.